morning and welcome to another episode of Business Ambassadors. I am your host, Dereck Stinson with Star Financial, and today my special guest is Amanda Fisher. Hi, Amanda.
Hello.
Thank you very much for being here today.
My pleasure.
Amanda is the Director of Sales Management and Leadership, and she is a Sandler training, and she works with a lot of different leaders out in the community with all kinds of different styles out there. And we all know that we all kind of run into a brick wall sometimes.
It happens.
And you're here to help us.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Well, so I thought today what we would do is just talk about a couple of the things that I get a lot, especially as we're going into the end of the year and we're looking at what we can improve upon and focus on next year, not only with our teams and our employees, but for ourselves.
Sure.
So I thought a couple things that we could talk about that are quite fitting would be the first one. I get a lot of, Amanda, I am just spending way too much time fixing other people's problems. Not only just my employees, but my teammates sometimes, occasionally maybe my boss. It just depends on what's happening. So there are some different things that you can look at to start lessening how often you're doing that and get you back to focusing on what your actual responsibility may be and how that plays out in that role.
So how do we do that?
So the key is you take people down a path of self-discovery.
Okay.
And it sounds really easy, right?
Right, yeah.
You want people to come up with their own solutions and people should be able to do that, but it's really not. So people in general will retain 20% of what they see, 30% of what they hear, but 90% of what they do and what they say. So this is true in your personal life too. Think back, which I'm sure this has never happened to you before, but maybe you've had an altercation with someone in your life, and it might have even been about 3 years ago, but you can tell me with conviction what you said and exactly what the situation looked like. And that's what we're talking about here. We want to make sure that you are getting your teams and your people to that point where they can function more or less without you through problems. So one of the things that I like to say is people don't argue with their own data. And
That's
so
true.
for this purpose, data means their own ideas. So when we're talking about how this works, there's really two roles that you're going to play as a leader in this situation.
Okay.
The first one is you're going to take them down a path of self-discovery to figure out what the problem is. And then you're going to take them down the path to figure out what the solution is.
Okay.
Again, sounds really easy, but here's the hard part.
That sounds great.
You are going to have to pull back and resist the entire time to tell them the answer because you know what it is. You have the experience, and that's the whole reason that they're coming to you in the first place. But you can't do that. So one of the situations that I've found works best when you find yourself dealing with this issue, create a playbook of questions.
Okay.
Come up with, whatever number you feel is appropriate. I have 25 in mind, and use those questions to prompt them along. The important thing, though, when you're doing this is you have to be silent and wait for their responses, which is extremely difficult. Everybody likes to fill that silence, so you have to wait. And then you also need to make sure that you're throwing some obstacles in there because you and I both know that the first time somebody is going through this and they are trying to solve their own problems, it is not going to go the way that they had envisioned.
Correct.
So it's incredibly important that you ask some questions. How would you handle this if I wasn't here? What would your solution look like if this happens? And how do you change the plan if somebody doesn't buy in? And like I said, the most important thing is to resist the urge to bring yourself into the conversation because it's not about you.
Right.
You are truly aiming to create a better leader and individual within your organization and bring them along this self-discovery path with you.
To get them talking, get them thinking, and then really reflecting on what's going on or what the issue is.
Absolutely. And if you step back, you'll be amazed at what people can actually accomplish.
Wow. And do you have any other examples of maybe a couple of good questions that...
Well, like I said, I like to use if you were me, what would you do?
Yeah.
And it sounds very generic, but it's true. If you were me, what would you do? Or the best is, what do you really want to see come out of this?
Okay.
How are you really thinking this is going to go? And if that happens, what else can you do? Where do you go from here? So it becomes more about working on the problem-solving skill set and their capability in general than it does the actual problem at hand. Because you're trying to prepare them to be able to do this for themselves in the future as well.
So when something else pops
Right,
up,
right.
it doesn't become your problem. They're
Absolutely.
already kind of thinking through what the issue would be.
Yeah. And
Wow.
what will happen is you're going to get to this point where your employees are coming to you, but they're no longer wanting you to solve the problem. They're coming to you and saying, hey, this happened. Here's what I think we should do. Here's what I think it's going to look like. And then you can add some different questions and keep, probing a little bit and making sure that you are rounding out that skill set.
So being a good questioner.
That's right.
And
Ask
listening.
good questions. That's the key.
Good.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's a great,
Yeah.
great tid point, or a good little skill for all of us to use. Get your employees talking, ask those questions, and
Absolutely.
sit back and let them talk.
Absolutely.
Well, what else do you have for us?
Well, along that line,
Yeah.
this is one of my favorites. Do not chase purple squirrels.
Purple squirrels. You heard her right. She did
I
say
know.
purple squirrels.
Purple's my favorite color. But
What's
no.
a purple squirrel?
So a purple squirrel is those distractions that can happen in meetings.
Okay.
So one of the things that I also hear a lot are, Amanda, I'm in meetings all day long and I just can't handle it. I'm not getting anything accomplished. I feel like we're not moving forward. And then when they're leading the meetings, I feel like I'm having the same conversation over and over. Or I tell people this is what we're going to talk about, and then we talk about all this other stuff. Those are purple squirrels. Yeah.
There's
So
a lot of those.
I have a couple of tips for you on how you can avoid that.
Good.
So what that looks like, if you don't take time to prepare before you're leading a meeting, you are essentially bringing a cage of purple squirrels and setting them on a table and freeing them for everybody. You're going to get different opinions and questions, and you're going to get maybe a smidget of what you want to get accomplished. Because it's really hard to wrangle them in once they're out of the cage. So my suggestions are, I encourage you to spend a fair amount of time preparing for your meeting before you go in. Do you have the key players? Do you have the key information? Is there anything else that needs to be on that agenda? Have you asked other people what they would like to see come out of this meeting? Get people involved in the planning process. Then really, here's where it's kind of all on you.
Okay.
When you show up, take the cage and put it on the floor and really focus on, this is the time that we have for this meeting. These are the people that are going to be here. This is what we're going to talk about. Acknowledge the fact that other things are going to come up, because it doesn't mean that they're not important for those items to come up. It just means their place is not here, not right now.
Okay.
So there's a degree of flexibility you have to have within it, and then there's also a degree of control that you have to have within it. And when you finish that meeting, we'll talk about follow-up here in just a minute, but it's incredibly important that you keep people on task.
Okay.
And making sure that we're focusing on why we're all gathered here for the first place, because let's face it, everybody has been to a meeting where they've walked away going, what was that? Why am I here?
Yes,
I could have spent an hour doing this, that, and the other. And the other thing is, the people that leave your meeting are going to notice what you're doing. You don't want to send your team out into the wild, especially if you have salespeople, and have them showing up at somebody's door going, hey, what you want to talk about today?
Right.
I got this cage
Right.
of squirrels. I'm just going to set it on the table. We're just going to talk about a bunch of different stuff and see what happens. You don't want that to happen. So you are literally leading by example when you're adopting this type of a policy. So that's just
Wow.
extremely important.
I mean, we're all real busy, and we all have these appointments or meetings that come up, and when you are in a meeting that has a bunch of purple squirrels, all you can think about is the 50,000 other things that you have to do,
Right.
and you don't have any kind of real buy-in.
That's right.
So I love getting rid of these purple squirrels.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're engaged and you're actually getting stuff accomplished, I feel like the whole group is for the good of the cause.
Absolutely. The momentum that you can gain by putting your purple squirrels in a cage is incredible. It's going to not only spread to those people that were in the meeting, but it's going to get around that you really know what you're doing. People go, this is an organized thing. This is a good meeting. I feel productive. I feel valued. I am engaged in this conversation. it's a totally different vibe. And like I said, it can create momentum because hopefully you won't be the only one running your meetings that way.
Right. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh.
Put the cage on the floor.
Put the cage on the floor.
Shimmy them out.
Well, what else do you have to share with us?
Well, just those are a couple things that I hear about quite often. I know
Sure.
a lot of companies right now are going into that 2018 planning and or wrapping up for that 2018 planning. And so I just encourage you to think outside the box and really consider, do I have a good plan for the leaders within my company? Do I have something that's going to add value to them, that's going to help them generate more revenue for my company? And are we all on the same page? My favorite phrase, short book, lots of pictures. Are you all there talking the same language and doing the same actions and really trying to achieve the same thing?
Wow. Awesome. I mean, that sounds awesome. It's a
It
great
does.
plan.
And
What?
it's fun.
So, people are businesses. Are you helping businesses, individuals? What kind of people are you looking to help, or how can they contact you and
Sure.
get to know you?
Well,
Talk
there
some more.
are a couple of different ways we can go about that. Sometimes it is individuals. Other times it's companies. There's really not a size company that is a better fit than another. Really, the common thread that I've seen
Yes.
is businesses that have a growth component to their business plan. Those we definitely have a lot of really good conversations, a little bit along that self-discovery path on how we're going to get there.
Sure.
So that's one. I also have companies that come to us because they have experienced a lot of growth and maybe they're seeing a little bit of a gap in who they have in place to take over. So maybe it's succession planning, generational gaps. So maybe somebody's getting ready to retire and the next generation's coming in. So they're kind of working on their culture in different areas in that way too.
Sure.
And then the last one are companies that have multiple locations, because
Okay.
what they've noticed is there might be a couple of locations that are really good at producing rock stars, but the other ones maybe not so much. So trying to figure out how we can level that a little bit more and maybe do more of the stuff that makes everybody look and feel good, and maybe do a little bit less that's detracting from the growth strategy.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, definitely. If you're a business owner out there looking to increase your leadership, or you're an individual out there that needs a little brushing up on your leadership skills before the beginning of the year, because we all know 2018 is coming.
Oh,
we're
faster
all
than
going
we're
to
prepared
have our wishes and goals for 2018. So this would be a great start to help get you on the right track.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Feel free to email or call me, amanda.fisher@sandler.com, and let's just have a conversation. I'll invite you over, show you where we make the magic happen, and just find out if there's really anything that I can help you with.
but leave the purple squirrels at the door.
Yes. Yes, the cage on the floor. For sure.
Well, thank you so much
Absolutely.
for coming and sharing a little bit about leadership, and we look forward to seeing who else you can help. And,
Oh, of course.
so.
Me too.
Well, I'm Dereck Stinson with Star Financial, your small business banker. If you're a small business out there and you need a partner in your corner, give me a call. I look forward to helping you as well. So thank you and have a good day.
Bye.